Hi everyone, I'm Shaylin here with Reedsy. So today we're going to be talking about how to outline your novel. Consider this your beginner-friendly guide to outlining a novel. There are so many different ways of outlining a book, but today I'm going to be breaking it down in hopefully the simplest and most approachable way possible. You can get really complex with novel outlining, but it also doesn't have to be that overwhelming if you don't want it to be. So I've just got 6 general steps that you can follow. Outlining your novel just means creating a plan for the story in advance. Not all writers use outlines. In fact, I typically don't write from outlines, but there are different types of outlines you can create. Your outline could be very, very loose, very, very general, very, very flexible, or it could be extremely specific. It's really up to you and the level of detail that you prefer. Different writers do different things. Personally, I will do some pre-planning, but I don't really do outlining in the sense that I don't usually plan out the chapters and scenes in order in advance. But some level of pre-planning or outlining is helpful for the majority of writers, even if you want that planning to be fairly loose. So in this video, I'll be running through the general steps that you can use to outline a book, but keep in mind that this is extremely flexible and tailor this to your needs as a writer. I'll overlay some examples of outlining and what it might look like in the Reedsy book editor, which is our free online word processing tool, and we have outlining features in beta that are really easy to organize and really easy to use. Step number 1 is to decide what type of outline you're going to use. There are so many different ways to outline a novel, and every writer is going to have their own unique way of setting it up and outlining. If you want some ideas on what outlines could look like, we have a video on different types of outlines, ranging from extremely loose, where you just outline as you go, to much more specific for different types of genres, to very complex. So figure out what level of outlining you want to do, what areas of the story you want to outline. It's up to you and what you think would be most beneficial. Step number 2, brainstorm to get your thoughts out. I think a great first step before you go into maybe the more structured type of outlining is to just do a general brainstorm. Write out as many ideas as you have. Any ideas, really. I like to just brainstorm any possible scenes that could be in the story or any possible ideas. This just gives you material to work from. You're probably not going to use a lot of it, but it's good to just write it out. And a lot of the time, that process of just writing out ideas, even if they're bad, is what clicks good ideas that you actually want to use. So if you're just in the very beginning stages, take some time to do some brainstorming and just kind of free write ideas. Step number 3, set up your outlining structure. Once you've decided what your outline is going to look like, set up an easy to navigate outlining structure. Personally, what I like about using the Reedsy book editor for outlining is that you can set up a bunch of different folders, and within that have different pages for different types of notes. So you can set up a folder for your character profiles, one for world building, one for your outline, and then when you're viewing your outline, you can view it in tile cards, so get a general overview. And then you can also look at those individual note pages. If you're doing world building, you can set up world building templates with different pages for the different cultures, the different regions, the geography. This stuff can be endless. You can set up pages for your different characters, and then you might set up a structure for your outline. So you might have a note for a general plot summary, and then different notes for all of the different chapters, maybe even shelved by act. But you just want it to be really easy to navigate, and that's the whole point of an outline, is that it gives you a broad overview of your story. So you want it to be as organized and clear as possible. If your outline is confusing and you don't know where you've stored certain information, it does kind of defeat the point of doing all this work in advance. The whole point of doing this work is so that all the information is organized, clear, and you can get that overview of your story. Step number 4, do some world and character development. I do think before going into a more detailed outline of the plot, it helps to do some general world and character development first, since these things have such an impact on the plot. It will probably be a back and forth, but I think that it is a good starting point. If you're writing in a genre with a lot of world building, and for any story really, I think it helps to just do some character building to begin with. So if you're not sure where to start, especially with developing the story, I would recommend starting with character and then world, since these are such important building blocks. If you think of your story as almost like a game board, you know, the world building is the board, and then the characters are the pieces, and then the plot is the route they're going to take through the game. So I often think it's easiest to start with some world and character building first. This could look like a lot of things. It could look like a detailed world building Bible for the fantasy writers or the sci-fi writers out there. It could look like research for the historical writers out there. It could look like detailed character profiles. But I would keep all of this information in the same place as your outline, since it is all going to feed into your outline. These things are all so interconnected. But I do think that this is a great starting point. before you start planning out the story. And as you character build and world build, you will probably get a lot of ideas for the plot, so take note of those. Step 5, start with a loose outline. Before you go into a more detailed outline, I would recommend starting with a looser outline. So for example, just writing out generally what you think is going to happen in each act of the book, or doing a loose plot summary. I think it's much easier to start with a loose outline and just get your general bearings for the overall arc without worrying about the chapter or scene breakdown before you go into a more detailed outline. If you want to just do some lighter outlining, you could stop there. The loose outline could be the end for you. For me, that's usually the end. You know, a loose plot summary is probably the extent of outlining that I'm going to do. So for me, that's the start and end point. But if you want to go on to make a more detailed outline, I do think that it helps to start from a loose outline first, kind of like doing a sketch before you go in with paints, so that you can get the pieces down, you can get the shape down before you start filling it in with all the detail, right? So once you've created a loose outline, then step number 6 is to make a detailed outline. This is where you can actually break the story down into individual chapters and scenes. In your note-taking software, you can make individual cards or subheadings or folders for different chapters with scenes shelved within them so that you have this overall skeleton that then you can start filling in. If you're using a plot structure like The Hero's Journey or Save the Cat or something like that, you can begin with that structure. Or if you're not, if you're just structuring it yourself, then you can just create your own chapter structure based on what your story needs. You may want to do things like label chapters based on the point of view character. For most people, a more detailed plot outline is going to basically look like a breakdown of all the chapters and all of the scenes within the chapters. Some people might do it a little more loosely, so just a general idea for the chapter and then they'll figure out the scenes when they get there. Or it might be even more specific, and within the scenes, they may even outline the trajectory of the individual scenes and specific beats they want to hit within those scenes. It really is up to you and the level of detail that you prefer. You may have some scenes that you see very vividly and need to make a very detailed outline for, and others that you're leaving a little more vague. But this is usually the final step in outlining, creating that kind of final refined outline that goes more in depth into the story and kind of lays out the story in full. When you sit down to write, you have this really clear roadmap that you can follow. So that is a simple 6-step process for outlining a novel and some examples of what it might look like for you. If you are an outliner, I'd love to know what outlining method you use below. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos from us. We've got new writing, editing, and publishing tips every Friday on this channel. Until next time, bye!